So, I was about to start this and saw something down the road, and I thought it was turkeys in the road, and okay, whatever. Turns out it was 3 chickens that escaped from down the hill, and so I had to go out and chatter with them, and then they came back, and other stuff got in the way, so I didn't start this quite when I intended to. I had the camera set up here for maybe 40 minutes or so without using it. I ended up in Facebook jail. Now, that's not surprising in and of itself if you know me and know my history with other places, especially BGG. But what I found kind of odd was, I don't know, for like, they did sort of a crackdown for a while, or started one a while ago is what I mean. And at first it was kind of like, oh, disinformation, oh this, oh that, labeling things, and I figured maybe it was shit like that. Maybe it was, I don't know what, a couple of my friends got thrown in Facebook jail. Others who I didn't even think was possible that they could say anything that would get you in trouble ended up, getting a warning or something. And I wasn't getting anything. And I'm like, how could this be? I'm a walking case for moderation usually. And I still don't know the answer to that. But it feels like things have gone to another level, yet even further, where they're flagging kind of, their algorithm or whatever is putting it in front of the people who are getting 10 cents an hour or whatever to look at things for 2 to 3 seconds and make a judgment on them. And these are people who, English is not their native language. It's probably a strong secondary language, but the ideas of nuance, satire, any kind of subtlety, they're just not there. And that may be kind of what was getting me a pass. I don't know. But the 2 things that I got flagged for are kind of ridiculous. I'm sure everybody says, well, that's ridiculous. Why would you flag me for that? But on the other hand, certainly the first one I understand why it happened. So the first one, and I just want to do this because I can't post about them. First of all, I can't post about anything right now because I'm in jail for 24 hours or whatever. But I can't post about the things that got me flagged and show how ridiculous they are, even if I was able to post, because that would generate the same issue probably. So the first one was, of course I'm going to post this video up on Facebook, but they're not able to do that because what they do, what their algorithm does is it just does some AI, fairly simple stuff, and it's probably better and better trained as it goes for just what someone says. And, then a human, if I'm right about how they handle this, I seem to remember watching something on this, how they moderate stuff. When something's flagged, a human takes a look at it just for almost no time, and agrees or disagrees, and they cannot spend more than a couple of seconds on any given post. They are judged on a quota type system. Now, I had a lot of trouble with something else was it my videos or something else? Something. Oh no, it was Gamebox pages. I had a lot of trouble when I was posting those, but that has more to do with, I think, how they were hosted or something at one time. I'm really not sure about what went on with those. But anyway, the context of the first one is my spam muse and I, and actually both of these are that. We're just, this kidding around type of spam that we do. And she basically, made one of her normal comments, which was that me and someone else in the same thread should like 69 each other or something. Basically have sex with each other. No, we're both guys. I have very little knowledge of him, except that he is often in my spam phone. And so I put back fag hack. I think that's all I put in it. Now, the way that they do their handling and everything, I understand how that got, first of all, flagged, and second, both words are ones that have a certain negative connotation, and how someone in India or whatever looking at it for 2 seconds without looking at any context or whatever, and without the knowledge of what that means at all, would just oh yeah, that's a problem. With no problem at all. And I absolutely understand how it happened. And I'm like, okay, well that sucks. I'm gonna have to be more careful. I'm not sure how, but, and that's what I'm gonna get to. But, this is a term that is really not used derogatorily. It has always kind of been there's just this class of women who like to hang around with gay guys, and that's the term for them. It's similar to calling someone a drag queen. Could be used derogatorily, but it wasn't here. It was, I don't know, just on our way to spammy meaninglessness, or, excuse me, my poor throat. Dancing 2 days, whatever, smoking a lot, killed, it makes my cold worse, and being out in the cold weather. Okay, so again, I understand why this got flagged, and I'm not sure I can avoid it. The next one, I'm a little less sure of the context, regarding the Ukraine situation. It must have been in one of my threads about that. I don't remember precisely. I don't remember which one it showed up in, because again, this is just spam. And there are several that it could have shown up in. Again, my spam muse jumps in. We start throwing things back and forth that are kind of joking. And my post was, NATO's got nukes, let's nuke them all. Now, if you look in that same thread, anything that I argued, with any realism or, with any discussion, was about, I think this was actually the thread where I was going into a discussion of how delicate a balance any response we have to make is. Because it's very hard to predict what will send Putin into a situation where, he thinks he has no other option but to push the button. Now, this may be out of our hands, honestly, because the Ukraine was going to be a problem for him no matter what. The armaments and training we've given them, even if NATO just said, yeah, you know, we just agree we can't do anything about this. This isn't our problem. Not my business, man. Even if they said that, it was probably too big a thing for him to try anyway, given what we're seeing, etc. And if it was too big a thing, issues might develop in Russia that are going to threaten him and his presidency. And he's not going to get out of there alive. You know, this is a lot. It is really hard for a dictator to get out of a situation alive. And if he's in a position where he thinks, you know, maybe a coup's going to happen or something, there's, you know, I mean, I can totally understand somebody saying, yeah, fine, bye. And you hear this, you know, from the Ukrainian ambassador to the UN, I believe, which was, you know, if you're going to commit suicide, do it in a bunker. don't fucking nuke the world. But anyway, this wasn't flagged as anything. So like the fag hag thing, they put down hate, whatever. It wasn't. I neither hate fag hags nor certainly not my spam news. It was just sort of play. And you know, but again, I see where there's no way using their business model to avoid making that kind of mistake. And I don't think there's any kind of contest provision for the whole thing. I don't know. Which sucks. I mean, it's like, it's basically 2 posts in a year that got me hit. But they weren't very far apart, you know. If their standard has gone to this, I'm gonna probably be permanently banned pretty soon. If I can't figure out some way to not use Facebook the way that it's most important to me, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, this one wasn't even really, there was no notation as to why this goes against their standards. I could easily come up with one, but given the context of what I was probably saying in that thread, as well as, you know, my whole history on the subject, via other posts and everything, there's just, you know, it was just a sarcasm thing. It was, there's no way in the world that anyone who is reading my stuff and interacting with me would actually believe that. And this is something where the BGG model, which I have problems with, is better, because someone has to flag your post and say, hey, that's a problem. Of course, if you've got sort of segmented mindsets, you could end up with a bunch of fringe people from whatever side spouting hate speech and whatever amongst themselves. And it would just not show up in anybody else's feed, because that little circle of friends has already winnowed anybody who would be bothered. And also, there's other reasons against it, but you know. But at least you have people who are supposedly aware of the context to say, yeah, you know, that goes over the line with me. And I'm following this person and I'm getting exposed to their speech. Whether, you know, but on BGG, it gets badly misused. But that's because everything is kind of out in the, well, I don't know if it gets misused. Everything's out in the public, which means that if anyone sees something that bothers them, they'll flag it. Of course, an admin looks at it, but not too well, I gotta tell you. Or a moderator looks at it. But it's just not, there have been times where, yes, I deserve being flagged. There have been other times where I'm playing with someone and it's obvious, and neither of us would have flagged the other person, and we're actually not really derailing the thread or anything. It's just a couple of quips back and forth, and then, you know, things continue on as if nothing happened. It doesn't cause any problem where that, you know, someone comes across it and is just like, you know, they're the nannies. They're the kids in school who are like, Bobby's like doodling. Teacher, he's not paying attention, or something like that. I mean, these are really, there's something very wrong with this kind of people. You wonder why they didn't get the shit beaten out of them enough times that, like, that they learned better. But yeah, whatever. But see, so the problem on Facebook is, Facebook serves very few purposes for me. One of the major ones is for me to spam with my spam news and with others, and just play, you know? And sometimes that play is almost invariably going to cause something that gets flagged. That is not of my posts, but of my responses and comments and everything. You know, like 95% of it is just nonsense and wordplay and deliberately misunderstanding things and stuff like that. That's just, it's the fun of it all. And I don't know how to be careful enough with that to prevent myself from, you know, once a month, once a week, I don't know, getting flagged. Because, yeah, there's often sarcasm that's very clearly against what I believe. There's ribbing, all kind of stuff in there. And then, what else do I get out of it? Well, you know, I like posting about my thoughts and feelings and things, and that's kind of important. But I don't think, like, if I didn't have that spamming going on, I actually don't know how much I would be posting to Facebook with these other things. And a lot of it's putting funny or cute memes and pictures and videos and stuff that I just find, that I feel like people kind of get an enjoyment out of. Some of which are probably far worse than either of the things that I got flagged for. You know, I mean, they really are. But again, would they get flagged? No, because like my posts, they're not done in a particularly mean spirit. They're not really trying to make too much of a point. But on the other hand, I think quite a few of them would be problematic, are more problematic and more a matter of someone who understood context and whatnot would have a real problem with it. And that's one of the problems with their algorithm. Especially, and this is why people post, you know, something that's basically a picture with words, and that's it. I mean, not a meme, just like they take an image of a colored surface with writing on it so that they can say whatever the fuck they want, and the algorithm can't catch them. Eventually it will, though. Eventually it'll catch up to that. But yeah, they don't seem to have that cleverness in play yet. But then people find other ways to get around it. But here's the thing. The things that I do, they don't mean enough to be worth doing that, right? The things that I do they're spam. And I don't mean spam as it's regularly used. I mean what I got accused of on Fora, which is just playing games with words and saying shit and ribbing each other and tossing crap back and forth, and all the stuff that I spelled out, where a post, there's no thought in it. It's just, there's no filter, there's no time to think. It's just like a react, for the humor and for the speed and whatever. And I actually find that Facebook is shitty about it because the cycle time is slower on Facebook than it was on the fora that I used to deal with. But on the other hand, I don't know, various things happened. But mainly, the right people are not on a forum for me to do that with anymore. But yeah. So, I'm left with this. Well, the major thing that I get out of the damn site, it didn't used to be. The major thing I used to get out of the site was, oh look, because it forced you supposedly to use your real name, and other places didn't, and it was so big, it allowed me to get into contact with people, especially like people I knew from high school and stuff, that I just had no other way of even kind of thinking to look for them. And likewise, locally, as I made Facebook friends locally, then I would see pictures of people and I'd be like, I know this person, hi. Just, hey, want to be my friend, whatever. And it allows me a way to communicate. It allows them to, it allows me and them to both understand each other better, because I'm not someone who really gets involved in conversations all that much. And, so people don't really see a certain side of me. There's also the side of me that I present on the internet is one that's very hard to reach in reality, at least parts of it, the playful parts and whatnot. That's something that, it's kind of like, it's opened up. First of all, it's open for everyone to view who wants to, who's involved, whatever. And that's very interesting because this is something, it's not that far from the kind of play I would have with my wife or other significant people in my life, including some very close friends, male friends. Not sure. Yeah, there have been a couple of females I've done that with that, there was nothing nothing physical or anything between us. But not many. But yeah, that sort of playfulness is not apparent to most people, right? It's funny because a lot of times people get the impression in real life I come across as too intense or something like that. Maybe, too cerebral, too in my own head about so many things. Now, the weird thing is the people that I meet now, I meet generally through dancing instead of other facets of life. And, they're seeing mainly a part of me that does not seem at all that way. And so, whatever. But what they see there is also, that's not something that's sort of in my common everyday life when I'm dealing with someone that I'm very close to. The play is. The play very much is. So people get a window into that, but maybe even more importantly, some people will join in and will play as well. And if the play matches well, there's a good sign, that it's someone I would get along with very well. Yeah. I'm trying to think, anyway, it's really, it's one of the magical things for me about the interwebs in a large sense, which is that I found that sort of spammy, fast quipping play. Some people are, they're just like, what the fuck, it's just noise. There's a reason it gets called spam, why I denigrate it that way. But on the other hand, that also created this sort of, I don't know, a link with people. There would be people who just enjoy reading it. There would be people who enjoy playing that way. That wouldn't have come up in any other way. Discovering that kind of play is very, very hard because, and somehow the internet makes it possible. But anyway, if Facebook doesn't have that for me, if I have to cut that part out, I'm kind of like, what's it really worth then, Because it's not just my spam, it's not just my spam views that I do it with. There's probably like a dozen people that I interact with who I feel comfortable playing that way with. Anyway, I'm sending this up. I also don't know where I'm going to find another place that I can do that. I mean, that was one of the things. It's one of the things that made me run away from BGG again and again, was that, like, I want some level of that play. Maybe not to the degree that I do on Facebook or on some other sites that I did, but there has to be something of that somewhere in my life. And again, I just don't know, most places are so heavily moderated now that it's really, really fucking hard. So the thing I liked about the OkCupid fora, which was that, like, they were not completely unmoderated, but essentially so. Like, I think some people got hit every now and then for content, but honestly, I think the moderation was more to do with your profile and the pictures and whatnot that you put up. Because the actual fora, I mean, they were kind of a cesspit. And so I ended up being, I ended up following just a couple of fora, one of which was two, or sections, or whatever you want to say. And they both were like, there was a more serious tenor to the people who were involved in them. So like most of the sections of the site were like really just pure cesspit, and that's why completely unmoderated can be problematic. But the couple that I was attracted into were places where, you know, one of them was sort of more into kinks and alternative stuff and everything like that. And that would get a nice flow of trolling from people because, hey, this is where people are talking about weird shit. So, you know, there was a woman who was talking about her loving relationship with her dog and trying, you know, to get more people. I think she was trying to capture people to go to other sites more than anything else, but also to give a reasoned argument into this. And boy, did that thread get, you know, huge amounts of trolling. But I was sort of the pet troll of that section, in the sense that I would engage the trolls and just back and forth with them with quipping type level stuff, but I would just end up making them look really ridiculous, like more ridiculous than they were. And I would make it so that, like, you know, whatever they thought they were shaming, they ended up looking far worse than whatever that was. And it's just a fun game. It's one of the things I really love doing. But yeah, there were some epic conversations. Anyway, I gotta stop this before I burn out my voice completely.